Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers Podcast.
Sponsored by Journey 333. That is a place of mind, body, spirit that helps you with fitness, coaching, and nutrition to look better, live better, and feel better. We produce these episodes every week for your enjoyment to help people to overcome adversity and live their dreams.
Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers Podcast.
The Overcomers Podcast is sponsored by Journey 333. Now, that's a lot of threes. That's a place of mind, body, spirit, fitness, coaching, and nutrition where we help you to look better, live better, and feel better. We are coming to you with the Overcomers Podcast. Today, we got a very special guest in the house. It's Tracy McCubbin. And let me tell you about her. She is the CEO of Declutter-Free. She is an author. She's the author of the book, Making Space Clutter-Free. This is an Amazon bestseller. And when we talk about overcoming in our lives, when we talk about getting our minds right, sometimes we got to get our space right to get our minds right. In fact, I would say all the time, we got to get our space right to get our minds right. And I can't wait for Tracy to tell you about how to make your life clutter-free. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Yay! Thank you for having me. I love the title of your podcast. I love it, The Overcomers, because for so many of my clients that I work with and readers of my book, you know, they think like they should have been born perfect, right? I should have been born to know how to organize. I should have been born to know how to eat right. You know, we beat ourselves up all the time. And what I always say is like, you may not know how to do this, but you can learn, right? You can understand. So I love this idea of overcoming. I think we are going to be so aligned in our messaging. I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
Oh, well, we are excited to have you on the show. So tell me, you know, was the book first or was the company first? The company was founded in 2006, I believe, right? You know, so.
Yeah. So the book came after, the company came first. And, you know, my journey as an entrepreneur, I always call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I never meant to start a company. I was sort of doing a bunch of jobs. I was working as a personal assistant for 5 years. And so I would, when I had some extra time or my boss's friends needed help, I'd sort of like go and help them get their house ready to sell, or their grandma had passed away and help them get rid of the stuff. And so I was just doing these jobs. I was doing them for free or a little bit of money. And a friend of mine was like, you know, I think you have a business. Like people really need this service. And I thought, no, what? And then more jobs were coming and more jobs were coming. And I realized I didn't want to be in the entertainment business. So I was like, let me make a website. Maybe I'll start a little business. So, you know, 14 years, 15 years later, I have 8 employees, thousands of clients. So the business was born out of a need and a desire. And then through working with clients for so long, I really saw that we all have this similarity, that we all tell ourselves these stories about our stuff, and we emotionally attach to it, and we use our stuff to fill all these kinds of needs. So out of that is how the book was born.
Well, I can't wait for you to talk about some of those emotional needs and you know, what our stuff fills for us, because I think that is very aligned with our show where we help people to get their minds right. And before we do, starting this company, you know, thousands of clients, 8 employees later, has caused you to be featured by some pretty cool places, you know, whether it be CBS, NBC. Let's see, there was House Beautiful, Goop, the Washington Post, you know, so congratulations to you on all your success. And for those fitnesspreneurs listening, or even any entrepreneur that's listening, she saw a need and she filled it. She saw a problem and she solved it, you know, so that is how all great businesses are born. Really good stuff there. So let's talk a little bit about this, Tracy. You know, what do you find is it that you help people to overcome these emotional attachments to their things? You know, I mean, we're talking declutter. In my mind, I start to go to the extreme states where people are, what do they call them? Hoarders? Hoarders. You know,
yeah. So it's an interesting thing to bring up. And I always like to talk about this in the beginning. There's sort of 2 paths. There are people who are hoarders, and that is a disorder. That is an anxiety disorder. It's very serious. If listeners feel like that's an issue for them, there's a lot of resources out there. You can take a test and figure out, and you need to understand that or if you have a loved one, that's a very, very serious disorder that can be helped with meds and cognitive behavior therapy. And there's a lot that can be done. My focus, I'm also part of the story. I'm the child of a hoarder. So I spent my whole life watching my father struggle with this disorder. My book and my approach is much more for those of us, which are most of us, dealing with everyday clutter, dealing with why we shop too much, why we have too much stuff, why we're spending too much money, the holes in our lives, like where we don't feel fulfilled, we stuff with the actual stuff. So, it's not, I always tell people it's not unlike overeating or over drinking, or you're like, well, if one cookie makes me feel good, then 12 will make me feel better. If one pair of shoes makes me feel good, 12 pairs of shoes will make me feel better. And as I'm sure you always know, 12 cookies do not make you feel better. Right. So it's this awareness of why are you holding on to your stuff? What's occurring for you? What's the pain you're trying to avoid? What's the grief you don't want to go through? What's the loneliness you don't want to sit with? What are you trying to fill with your stuff? And then through that realization, it makes it easier to let go. We just got through lockdown and the pandemic, and I'm telling people, look, you were in your house for a year. If you didn't use everything in your house during that time, you probably don't need it. Right. So it's a real reckoning right now of our relationship with our stuff. So through the work with my clients, I saw that everybody tells these stories, and there's 7 of them. They tell these stories about why they have to keep the stuff that they don't need, want, or use. And I call these stories the emotional clutter blocks. So they're these and everybody tells them different points in your life. We create these stories. So they range from, my stuff keeps me stuck in the past. Like, I can't let go of that because those were my baby shoes, or those were a sweater I wore on the first date with my now ex-husband, to, I'm avoiding my stuff. My people who don't like to go through their paperwork, they don't want to open their mail, piles of paperwork, to my stuff tells me who I am. These are shoppers, right? Go out, buy. Oh, I'm a bargain hunter. Look, I got this on sale, to being stuck with other people's stuff, which is a lot of people who have things of people who have passed away in their lives. So you've inherited, how can I get rid of this? It was my grandmother's. I don't like this furniture, but it was hers. So I'm going to pay for a storage unit and keep it for years. And, so it's these 7 stories that we all tell ourselves, and I cover them all in the book. And they really resonate with people when people realize, like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who's sentimentally attached. I'm not the only one who thinks I'm being frugal. It's really a freedom of like, oh, okay, I can choose now. I'm not burdened by my stuff. Oh,
wow. That you sound as much like a life coach as you are helping people to declutter their
I do tell clients all the time, like, especially my married clients, I'm like, marriage counseling is included. So I do. It's really psychological. It's, you are in the fitness and, mindset space. It's all psychological. We make all this stuff up. And the great thing is, I always tell people, look, your stuff comes to you without meaning, and you put all the meaning on it. So you can take all the meaning off of it. You can find the freedom yourself. It just makes people go like, oh, this isn't my fault. I'm not broken. I'm not messy. I'm not a bad housekeeper. I'm just, I'm just dumping all my feelings inside onto, my closet full of clothes.
You just said marriage counseling is included. Think about this. I bet you that a lot of the listeners can identify with this. We all have stuff. If we have a significant other, we all have stuff in our house or in our dwelling place where we wish that the other person would get rid of some of their stuff, right? And so
my stuff's important. Your stuff is crap.
Oh, I know. We just went through something earlier today where I was given a card. It had a quote on it. And, here we are in one of our facilities. And Cindy's like, oh, that was important to you? I was just about to throw it away. It looked like a piece of, cardstock to me or something. And I was like, oh, that's kind of typical of our relationship because, like, he's got some clutter. I got to get rid of it. It's funny. So, how does that work? Because how do you help them to reconcile? Do you have a process for that? Do you have a way to help people?
Yeah, I love working with couples and families, and sort of the conversation always starts with, what's the vision for your home? Our homes are tools, right? Our homes are a place to keep us safe, to give us rest, to nourish ourselves. So what's the common goal for the home? Do you have kids? Are you empty nesters? What do you want your home to be? And then, and usually everyone's like, I want it to be stress-free. I don't want to worry about stuff. I want to clean less. So when you create the vision, you set the goal, then everything works towards that. And also understanding, like, look, you'll know this. I'm newly engaged, so I'm navigating all of this stuff too. There is the place where we come together, right? There's the place where this is the best for our family. And so how do our common spaces help our family? And then sometimes you have to say, like, that person's a little messy. They get their own space to be messy. And I just shut that door. So it's a lot of compromise, but it's really about setting a goal. You have to start there. What's the vision for your home? What are you trying to create that's the best for you and your couple or your family? What's the vision? Because if you don't have a vision, none of this matters.
That's really good. That's really good. Start with the vision. And that's why some of us wind up with man caves, right? So then that way we can just go and have those things that would normally be thrown away in the man cave, right?
And also, that's why there's a lot of she sheds. Give me my she shed. I don't want you to touch my stuff. I want to shut the door. So it's understanding that the common spaces are there to support the home. And maybe you've got to compromise a little bit. But what I think people forget, and I'm sure you see this in your coaching business, is that there's so much shame. People come to me with so much shame, like, I'm messy. I've always been messy. I got in trouble when I was a kid. So they almost go the other direction. Like, they're almost like, I'm not going to be clean because everyone told me I was messy. But what they don't understand is that that's affecting their life. Clutter leads to increased cortisol. They did a really fascinating study where they put people in a very cluttered kitchen and they offered them a carrot and a cookie. And almost everyone in the cluttered kitchen took a cookie. Then they did another group, they put them in an uncluttered kitchen. They offered them a carrot and a cookie, and almost everyone took the carrot.
Wow.
So clutter leads you to making bad decisions, right? You're in overwhelm, your cortisol's jacked up, you're in fight or flight. I always tell people, one vision that a lot of people say to me is, we want to stop going out to dinner. We want to start cooking healthier meals. We want to do this. And I'm like, well, your kitchen all your counters are completely covered in everything. So how can you how can you nourish yourself if you don't have any counter space? So it's like clearing that off. And that's the vision. We want to eat healthier. That's an amazing goal. Look, I tell people, I was talking to a client about this the other day, their closet was a disaster. I can use that word. It was a disaster. They got dressed out of the laundry basket. And I was like, all right, I want you to think about this. You wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you walk into a mess and you're digging for your clothes, and then you're running late and you can't find anything to wear, and then you can't find your keys, and you've cut off the morning so you can't make yourself a nice breakfast. So the next thing you do is you find yourself having breakfast in the drive-through, right? The turn of events leads to making a bad food decision. And nobody is thinking about it that way. It's like, oh, if my closet's neat, so I can find what I'm looking for, my stress goes down. I bought myself 15 minutes so I can scramble that egg or make that smoothie, make a better choice. And I'm not drinking a double mocha frappuccino something and a piece of cake. So it's really about understanding that living clutter-free, which means something. I'm not a minimalist. I'm not saying minimalism, but living so that your house and your space works, supports all these other decisions you want to make in your life.
This is really good. You just tied living clutter-free to fitness, and I love it. And it's so true. So true. So let me ask you, are there main focuses that someone could have to really start to de-stress their life, like you just used the closet as an example, what are the prime places? And maybe even if you could give us some standards for those places, maybe some ways to kind of evaluate those spaces in our life that can help us to live clutter-free and also live a little more stress-free, right? If you will. Yeah.
We're always looking to get rid of stress. So this is what I tell people. If you have a room in your house, the kitchen, the family room, your closet, if you can't tidy it up, make it neat, make it, ready to use in 20 minutes or less, clutter's gotten the upper hand, right? You should be able to put every room back together in 20 minutes or less. So that's the first one. Also, if you have this feeling, and I can only describe it as a feeling, if you feel like your stuff owns you and you don't own your stuff, if you feel like you're managing your stuff and moving it around and moving it here to clearing off the table so you can eat, putting it back because you have nowhere. If you're having with that feeling, then stuff has gotten the upper hand. So the first step I tell people is just awareness. Just go a day or two and pay attention to where you're just not comfortable. Like, are you not comfortable when you get up in the morning? Are you not comfortable when you go, are there rooms in your house you avoid because you're like, oh, I can't even go in there, it's full of stuff. And when you notice that discomfort, go, oh, okay, why isn't this working for me? Am I not getting dressed in the morning? Am I not cooking for myself? Is there a whole den that we don't even go in because it's just become a dumping ground? And from the awareness, you work backwards. In my book, Making Space Clutter-Free, I have a whole work plan for the house, room by room by room. Very simple, very well laid out, not complicated. And I'm sure that you talk about this all the time with fitness. Everyone's like, I got to buy all this equipment and I got to have everything. And it's like, well, actually, you could just put on tennis shoes and take a walk. That's a great start, right? Right? Like move your body, just move your body. And so I see that that is a big, I call it fitness clutter, where people go out and buy all the latest equipment and they don't use any of it. It's like, call a friend, take a walk. That's a great start. That's a great start.
It's funny too, because when we have new people that come into the building and they're like, okay, I'm super nervous, and and I'm giving them all the information and getting their health history, that kind of stuff. And I tell them, I'm going to give you this pamphlet. It's a nutrition pamphlet, but I want you to know it's baby steps. I want you to read it because I want you to have the knowledge, but it's one thing at a time. And each week we'll try to add one more thing. It's baby steps. Don't all of a sudden think the only thing you can eat is chicken and lettuce. You got to drink your body weight, half your body weight in fluid ounces. You got to come in here 6 days a week. I'm like, nobody can do that right now. Like, it's just, let's focus on one thing. You don't drink water? Let's just focus on that. We'll get a couple glasses a day. Like, so I love baby steps. Yeah. That's how I work best. And and that's how I try to work with our clients, is like, it's just baby steps. Let's just take it.
And what I always say to my clients is exactly what you're saying. Let's build on the success. Let's set you up for success, not failure. Right. You're not going to clean your whole garage in one day. It's not going to happen if you can't park your car in there. So let's do this. Let's baby steps. Let's work on the rooms that are the most important. And then what's going to happen, and I'm sure the synergy is right there. When you start drinking more water, you're like, wow, my skin looks better. I feel a little bit better. Okay. Let me I'm paying attention that I don't feel good when I eat sugar. So let me, it's the same thing with clutter. It's like, oh, wow, this room that I decluttered, I'm so much happier in it. I want to do it for the next part of my house. So it's start small, baby steps, build on your success. Pay attention to how much better you feel and use that as your motivator. Don't motivate yourself from shame. Motivate yourself from, I feel better. I like getting dressed in the morning now. I like going in this room, and build on it. And you'll have setbacks, of course. I always joke that Rome wasn't cluttered in a day. A lot of people have been living this way for a long time. So go easy on yourself. We're so hard on ourselves.
I like something else that you just said too, about if there's a room in your house. So for us, we have a teenage daughter. She's 19 now, but years ago, oh my goodness, her room was, and I've always been like, I don't know. they call me a neat freak. I like a clean house. I like it tidied up. So it doesn't matter who stops by, if it's unexpected. I'm like, oh my God, they can always come in. Her room was always atrocious. And I said to myself one day, I said, you know what? I'm not going to fight with you about that anymore. I'm just going to close your door. You keep your room the way you want, but in the rest of the house, we as a team, as a family, we're going to keep that clean. And I'll only go in your room if I have to. And so I would literally just shut her door, and then I didn't have to stress or fight with her anymore over it. And eventually she's like, yeah, I got to clean that room. It's terrible. I'm like, yep, you sure do.
I call kids' rooms where hope goes to die. It's just like, ugh. But then the interesting thing, and I work with a lot of families, and parents bring me in. And the thing that I say to the parents like that, like, let them live in it. Let it, just shut the door. Don't fight about it anymore. Right. But when they start to come to you and say like, oh my God, I can't find my ear pods, or, oh my God, I want to wear this sweater, I can't find it. And you're like, that's called consequences. You want to find your things, neaten up your room, because you'll be able to find anything that you want. And if you start with kids when they're really little kids, little kids, they go to preschool, they put all their toys away. They want to know where their stuff is. So it's like, okay, all your Legos go here, all your stuffies go here. And it's about teaching them. It's not about the messy room. It's about, you want to be able to find your toys when you want to play with them. So let's put them away in the same place every time. And, when kids start to learn that, it's really a big shift. It's really, really exciting.
So Tracy, let's use me for an example. All right.
Okay, Travis, let's use you. I like it.
I have a nightstand that definitely accumulates too many things on it. And that's because I always think that I'm going to read this book and that book. And then before I know it, I have 6 books on my nightstand that I'm not reading any of them. And then
and by the way, okay, go ahead, because I'm going to write a little note because I want to talk about that. Go ahead.
And then I wake up in the morning and I go to a closet that's small. And I would say better than 50% of the things in the closet are things that I don't currently wear, but they really make the things that I am trying to wear hard to find.
And wrinkled.
Yeah. And then sometimes I have to send them to the dry cleaners extra, not because they weren't recently dry cleaned, but because now they've been wrinkled by being stuffed in there with things that I don't normally wear. Mm-hmm. I do, notice that some of my shoes are piled on top of one another. And typically I only wear one pair of shoes. I may expand to sandals during the summertime, or maybe even some boat shoes. But I do have about 15 pairs of shoes in there. One's like a pair of dress shoes. I'm a gym guy, so I don't often get dressed up in, those kind of things. But they're there in case I need them. And then also I do have a tendency to make our table my work zone. And I have things that are piled up there, sometimes in little stacks that need to be put away and not left there, because then it looks, rather messy. And the table was not intended to be a work zone. So those are some of the things that I go through. And so, starting with the nightstand, for example, or starting wherever you want, even with my shoes, the closet, how do you deal with somebody like me? How do you fix me?
Well, let's talk about the consequences, right? So you said it yourself. I didn't even have to say anything. You said, my nightstand, I'm going to paraphrase, but my nightstand is stacked up with books that I think I'm going to read and I don't read. So already when you go to bed at night and when you wake up in the morning, subconsciously you're telling yourself you're a failure. Oh, I should be reading those books. Oh, I got to get to those books. Oh, why am I not reading those books? Right? And you run a business, you have a family, you're doing a lot of things. So you're already, by stacking all those books up, you're already putting yourself waking up and going to bed at a deficit. So, one book until you read it. And here's the other thing, I call that clutter block. I think it's number 4, my fantasy stuff for my fantasy life, right? You fantasize that you're going to read a book a week or a book a night. So you have 10 books stacked up. I'm going to read these. Guess what? You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. You know what we're short on? Time. We're short on time. So where do you, so this piling those books up isn't going to make you read it. And by the way, you're not a bad person for not reading those books. I'd rather see you acknowledge, like, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. Right. I want to talk to my wife. I want to wind down. I don't want to put pressure on myself that this is what I should be doing. So my rule in my house, and I'm the same person. I buy all the books. I'm like, this is the book that's going to fix everything. I'll tell you, I have bought every eating plan, diet book, you name it, I own it. Like the South Beach to the caveman to the thing to the blah, 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 blah. You know, I know how it goes. Move more, eat less, lots of water. Right? So I'd love to see you in my house. I only allow myself one book on my nightstand.
Okay.
Because I just, and then, you know, and if a certain amount of time goes by and I haven't started it, it goes back on the bookshelf or it goes away. In terms of the closet, we only wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time.
That sounds right.
So yep. So it's time. It sounds like, Travis, there's time for decluttering in that closet. I'm not going to wear this. I'm not going to wear this. You're making more work for yourself. You got to dig to find it. You got to send things out to be double dry cleaned. Like it's time, you know, and you just have to put a little bit of the time in. Like, you know what? This Saturday afternoon, I bet you in an hour, you could get rid of a third of your closet.
Now, do you believe in, you know, because of course, some of those clothes become more relevant in a change of season. So when you're teaching people to declutter their lives, do you teach them that these are, you know, you put away your winter clothes and you know, I mean,
yeah, like totally. If you live in a season, I mean, I live in LA, so we have 70 degrees all year, but if you have a seasonal closet, take it out. Also, there's really something powerful, and I'm sure you must talk about this with your fitness clients, like, you know, change of seasons and acknowledging the change of seasons. It's like, oh, different foods are coming into, like, now it's summer, so we're going to eat a different kind of fruit. You know, it's the same thing, like summer clothes, put it, like, there's really something about fall. I tell people to do it in fall and spring, not 4 times a year, twice a year. And it acknowledges the passage of time. Things are different now. So I'm a real fan of a seasonal closet. If you've got the space to take it out, it's great. It's really great. So, and you know, you know what you wear, you know, you're a gym person, you wear trainers, you wear t-shirts, you wear hoodies, like, you know, again, fantasy stuff for a fantasy life. You're not a suit and tie guy. So you need one for special occasions and then that's it. That's it. And that's great that your uniform supports your life. This is the life this is who you are in the world. So why not dress it? Why not own it? Right? You're not a button down shirt guy. Great. You're not going to wear polos. Who cares? You know, own it. That's the thing. We're so,
own it.
This is a great example. I think I should be a runner. I don't know why. I just have always had it in my head. You know what I hate to do? I hate to run. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't feel good. I don't get a runner's high. Like, I've spent so many times trying to convince myself, you know what I love? Well, I'll do. You know what I love? I love a spin class. I love a spin class. I like loud music. I like the group thing. I do that. And so it was finally, I had to say, like, you're never going to be a runner, and that's okay. That's okay. You like to go to spin. You like to go to yoga. These are the things, support the things that you like to do. Don't beat yourself up for the things that you don't like to do. I mean, you must see that with clients all the time. Like, if you don't like to, I'm never gonna start to like to run. I'm just not. You know, it reminds me of PE, and like I was always at the back. It was just the whole thing. So it's about stepping into, I mean, right. You see that with exercise. Like, what do people enjoy? You know, it's not supposed to be torture. It's supposed to be, you know, how do you find the exercise? Do you like to, you know what it is? So step into what you own. If you're not a button down shirt guy, don't be a button down shirt guy. The world's full of button down shirt guys. That's not you, right? So I really want people to own who they are and be okay with it.
How many shoes does one guy need?
Well, how many do you need? 3. Really? Two pairs of tennies and a pair of dress. 4. 2 pairs of tennies, dress shoes, and a pair of sandals for the summer. You know,
right? Yeah.
You know, and look, I wear tennies every day because I'm on job site. So I have 5 pairs of tennies because I like to mix them up and they make me feel cute. And, you know, but then all of a sudden it was funny. The other day I was looking at my tennies and I was like, I haven't worn those in a long, long time because I have these new favorites. So maybe it's time to let those go. It's time to, and it's also, Travis, about setting up your closet so that this idea like that everything's smushed together, you don't want to use it. You don't want to go in it. So you just get dressed out of the laundry basket.
Do you use any tools? Do you use any, what are they called? Like, Cindy, you'll know this better. Where would we go? Bath and Body or someplace no, not Bath and Body, someplace where like they had more of those.
Bed Bath and Beyond.
Bed Bath and Beyond. Yeah. There it was, so they'd have some of these organizational things. Do you use those? Or if you do you have any favorites, like as far as like helping people to,
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to our synergy here. It's this, I'm sure you have clients who come to coaching and they're like, well, I bought a Thigh Master and I bought a treadmill and I bought a Peloton and I bought a rowing machine and I don't use any of it except to hang my clothes on, right? I always tell people, do not go out and buy organizing tools until you've decluttered. Declutter first, understand, get rid of what you don't need, then really say, and chances are for most people, they've already bought it all. It's in the garage, it's somewhere. I'm a big fan of containment. I love bins, I love baskets. There's really good use for them, but you've got to strip down before you put all that stuff in. Because sometimes you're just containing for containing's sake. Like, oh, I call it the bag of bags. When you've got a big canvas tote and it's full of all these other canvas totes, and all of a sudden you're like, I have so many canvas totes. It's like, okay, no, so yes, I am a fan, but you need to declutter first. You need to get honest about what you really need, let it go, and then you can start to put the systems in place.
Very good, very good. Well, we've talked about the bedroom, we've talked about the nightstand, we've talked about the closet. How about this spot, the kitchen? I mean, what do you say about the folks that we have 7 different sets of dishes depending on who's coming. And we got so many sets of glasses that when you open up the cupboard, it's like one wants to fall out, which is a little bit, annoying. So, talk about stress, right? Like, hold on, open up fast because an avalanche. And why do we have 7 different sets of types of plates? Well, this is the one that's for Christmas. And this is the one that's if this family comes over. And this is my great grandma's. So we keep that around. Like, what do you do to help people to have a comfortable environment?
So usually with the people who have lots of sets, my first question to them is, do you actually use lots of sets of dishes? Oh, okay. My first question is, do you actually use it? Do you use these at Christmas? Do you put these out? Like, are you using the nice things that you have? Most of the time people aren't. Most of the time they're not using, look, I love beautiful china. I have a little bit of a weakness. I collect vintage stuff. I use it every day. But if you have these cupboards of things that you're just keeping because it was your grandma's, or you feel guilty, or you fantasize that you're going to set a beautiful table, you might not be that person, and that's okay. So it's really about, I think that the kitchen, it just needs to be functional. You need to be able to get a glass of drink. You need to, it's a tool. It's the room in the house next to your bed that supports you the most. So it needs to be easy to use. Look at your countertop. Do you have an air fryer, an Instapot, a George Foreman grill, a Vitamix? Like, how many appliances do you have, and how many do you actually use? Right? It's so funny. I don't have one, so I haven't used it, but everybody's all about the air fryer. And it was like, oh, and you can cook broccoli in it. And I'm like, where else you can cook broccoli that's delicious? In the oven, right? you can like little olive oil, little salt, bake that up. Delicious. So, again, this is where my fantasy stuff for my fantasy life. We think that this appliance is going to fix our lives when we are the ones that have to do it. And I always start in kitchens. I feel really, I really want people's kitchens to be useful and support them. And, it's the hub of the home. It's the hub of the home. And this, if you don't get your food supporting you, nothing else matters.
Yeah, Cindy wouldn't even let our toaster stay out.
I know. I was totally thinking of that. I was totally thinking of that because, we don't typically eat bread, but daughter, periodically she would do an English muffin or a bagel or something. It would irritate her to no end that she had to get in the pantry to get the toaster and put it on the, she's like, why can't we just keep the toaster out like every other family? I'm like, because it doesn't need to live out here. I like clean counter space. Love it. And the same thing, once in a while, we'll do a shake with the blender, but it lives in the pantry on the shelf behind closed doors.
Right.
Yeah. And here's the thing about, here's the thing, like the toaster is a great example, especially if you're someone who's trying to make a big diet change, right? Like I'm not going to eat, I'm trying to cut bread out. And when I eat it, I only want to eat whole grain. If it lives on the counter and you see it, you're like, well, let me get that cinnamon raisin bagel, right? Like if you have to do the extra steps, you're like, you know what, let me make a different choice today. Let me not do that. So I like clean counters, and then you can chop and then you can prepare. And then it's not, because clutter begets clutter, one toaster, one thing, and then next thing you know, your whole kitchen's full.
All right. Well, we've analyzed me a little bit, and I want to ask a question on behalf of a special lady in my life, my mother. God bless her. If she likes precious moments, so she has 2 curio cabinets full. She started collecting these wooden cats at one time, and they live everywhere in the house.
So many that now they're coming out on the floors. They're taking up the floor space.
They're around on the floors. They're sitting on top of the cupboards. I mean, it's like a cat haven, right? And then there's Coca-Cola. She likes Coca-Cola. The interesting thing about her is, it's funny, like the book, The Love Languages, they say that, we don't really love people in the language they speak. We love people in the language that we speak, right? And so she will often love people in the language that she speaks, because if she hears that you like something, like my grandfather, he liked John Wayne. So he would always get all these John Wayne gifts. He would have a John Wayne mug and a John Wayne poster and a John Wayne toaster and a coat and a this and a that, right? Because she is like a collector beyond a collector, right? Like it's just like, so what of those 7 areas does that fit into?
That's clutter block number 3. My stuff tells me who I am. So she has decided she's a collector. Right? This is how she identifies. She probably, on some level, every time she finds a new wooden cat or something for somebody else, she gets a dopamine hit, right? Oh, I found this new thing. I found a new Coca-Cola thing. I haven't seen this before. So she gets a little bump up. Most likely her love language is gift giving, right? So that's how she does, that's how she does it. So she's kind of decided that that's who she is in the world. That's her identity. And it probably, not to, analyze your mom, but maybe she doesn't have to get vulnerable. Maybe she doesn't have to really show up, because we can talk about the stuff. I got you this gift. We're going to talk about the gift. Maybe she doesn't have to ask, like, how are you really doing? Or, it's loneliness. Maybe there's a lot, it's a way to not get real, because we're keeping this literal stuff in between us. So but she's decided, I'm a collector.
Yeah,
that's what I am. And I'm sure she's lovely, and I'm not speaking, but but it's she's not buying your grandfather and the John Wayne. She's not buying those things because he loves John Wayne. She's buying them so it's for her, not for him. Right? She buys the gifts for herself. The process of going to the store, the finding it, all the things, it's not for the person she's giving it to. So really, we really have to think about when we give,
because of the, if you will, the dopamine hit of collecting, or is that what you mean? Like, as far as like,
probably it's twofold. Probably she gets a hit when she finds the thing. Oh, they're going to love this. And then also because her love language is gift giving. Oh, they're going to love me more because I found this gift for them. Instead of, when at the end of the day, what we really want is to connect. How are you doing? How was your day? How's things going on? But this is how she's connecting. And a lot of us do it. Oh, this gift, they're going to love it. They're going to love me more. At the end of the day, we're all just looking for love and connection. That's all we want. Yeah. We want to be seen.
Absolutely. And I would say that with it's usually the older folks in our lives that, have the most stuff that they can't get rid of because it was somebody else's. And that would make sense because they've lived the longest. So they've lost the most somebody else's. How do you help people? That's my final question. I know we've taken up a lot of time with you today, and I really appreciate all the gems that you're giving to our audience. But I think this is an important one for everybody because everybody probably has something that they're hanging on to, not because they use it, not because they even like it, but just because it was somebody else's. And, there's something attached to that. So, how do you coach somebody through that?
So this is clutter block number 6, stuck with other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. So I always say, and I give him credit, I famously stole this from Dr. Phil. I'm not pretending I made it up, but the amount of stuff that you keep from someone who passed away in no way reflects how much you love them. We keep the stuff because we don't want to lose the connection to them. So the stuff is the memory. So when we see the trinket, when we see the thing, when we see the piece of furniture, we remember them. But what I want to say is that you can have the connection without the stuff. I was very close to my grandmother, very, very, very close. She was like my favorite. I have one thing. I have her wedding ring. I wear it every day. That's it. That's all I have of hers. And, there's a house full of stuff and I could have taken it, but it's like, this is the thing that reminds me of her. I remember seeing it on her little grandma hands and that's it. And so every day I feel connected to her. So sometimes when people keep a lot of stuff from people who've passed away, they're just trying to keep the connection. And I invite them to try and find that connection the other way. Can you print out your favorite picture of the two of you together so that you see it every day, right? If your house is full or your garage is full or you're renting a storage unit of stuff from people who've passed away, you're actually dishonoring their memory, right? If your garage is full of stuff and it's getting wet and you're not saving it right and it's just disintegrating, that's not honoring their memory. So it's acknowledging that you want to keep the connection and keeping it in a way that supports you the best.
Wow.
That's
That's really good. Take it down to one thing, keep the connection, de-stress your life. Tracy McCubbin, Amazon bestseller. Thank you so much. Guys, you definitely want to read her book, Making Space Clutter-Free, because just think about me. I'm going to feel like less of a failure if I can just get those books off my nightstand.
Yay. And just so everybody knows, if they're trying to not have a lot of books, my book comes as an audio book and I narrate it and it comes as an ebook. So you don't have to buy the book.
Oh, you don't even have to clutter up your life with her book. You can just listen to it or have it on your iPad. Tracy, how can people connect with you? Maybe they want to consult with you on their lives or, what's the best way to follow you or get info?
Absolutely. So my website is Declutterfly, DCLUTTERFLY.com. It's a great place to find me. There's a clutter block quiz, so you can take the quiz and figure out what clutter block you have. I'm big on Instagram, so find me over there. That's Tracy_McCubbin. And then if anybody needs a little extra support, I have a private Facebook group called Conquer Your Clutter with Tracy McCubbin. Come join us. It's a loving, supportive group of people where everybody's dealing with it. Everybody's giving each other support. It's a lot of people use it as an accountability coach. It's just a really great group of people. So if you need a little more, we laugh a lot, which is great. If you need a little more help, then that's definitely a place to come join us. Conquer Your Clutter with Tracy McCubbin on Facebook.
Conquer Your Clutter on Facebook, or go take the quiz and find out about your clutter in your life. I love it. Tracy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Overcomers Podcast, sponsored by Journey 333. When I am not hosting the Overcomers Podcast, I am working at one of our fitness franchises so that I can continue to help people overcome adversity on a daily basis. That's right. People come to the Journey 333 fitness franchises because they want a coach in their life. They want somebody to help them overcome the adversities of life, motivate them to higher levels of greatness, bring out their potential, help them lose weight, get off medications, fight depression, fight anxiety. That's what we do on a regular basis. If you feel like you want your life to be about helping more people to overcome their adversities If you feel like you're an overcomer and you want to create more overcomers, then maybe owning a Journey 333 franchise would be for you. To find out more, go to www.journeyfitness333.com.